Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to you, depending on whichever part of the world you are tuning in from. I'm so excited to welcome you back to another episode of our weekly series of the Extreme Speeds Price Action Based Technical Analysis. But before we kickstart the session, let's run through our daily routine to confirm that we are all on the same page. So if you can see my screen, you can hear my voice loud and clear without distortions, please let me know in the comment section by typing in hi. So typing in hi will make me confirm, it will be sort of a feedback to me to confirm that we are all on the same page so we can kickstart the session. So I look forward to your feedbacks while I load up my comment box, and let's get ready to start the session. Okay, so I can see a couple of comments here. I see one from 575. Good morning to you. Thank you very much. I can also see from 999. Good morning to you. Thank you. And Carrie, hello Carrie, good morning to you, and glad to have you around with us this morning. So I would like to take this couple of feedbacks as a positive response that we are all on the same page. And it's on this note I welcome you once again to yet another promising edition of our Extreme Speed Live Technical Analysis. My own name is Sheriff Daramola, and for the next 1 hour, I'm going to be your host, where I will be taking you on a trading journey as we sniff through the current market structure from a technical standpoint using simple parameters such as trend lines, key levels, and of course, chart patterns to gain valuable insight into the historical movement within the assets on our watch list. So far this week, we have been monitoring four major assets, which includes the US All Spot, the USTech 100, popularly known as the Nasdaq, the GBPUSD, and of course the XAUUSD, which is popularly known as the gold spot. And on all of these assets, the market has been a little bit on a risk averse sort of a situation. And remember that the crisis going on in the Middle East. Remember, we are looking at the tension between the Hamas and the Israelis government, which has been escalating for the last 4 to 5 days now. And we know definitely that this event is going to be affecting the financial landscape in one way or the other, especially the safe haven, as majority in the market will want to be moving their funds into safe havens. So we are going to be looking at the technical aspect on how we are going to be managing our existing position while we also strategically position ourselves for today's New York session. For those who are joining us for the first time, you're highly welcome on board. I'm very excited to welcome you amongst us. Well, what we simply do here as technical traders, we gather here on a daily basis to manage our existing trading positions, look out for new setups while we also get ready for the New York session. So we do this on a daily basis, 10 a.m. UTC, 11 a.m. West African time. So I encourage you to stay tuned in and be part of this edition to the end so that you don't miss out on any of the insightful ideas and trading opportunities that we shall be deliberating on today. And I encourage you to be part of our subsequent editions, as the more time you spend with us, the better you get in understanding how our strategy works and eventually be able to use the information you gather in this community to make your own independent trading decisions. So with that being said here, I welcome you all once again. And with that being said, let's dive right into the business. So as usual, the first thing we normally do is to keep tabs with the fundamental aspect of the market, by checking on the economic calendar. And for those who have been with us for a while now, you know how important this is, as these fundamental factors often manifest on the charts in technical patterns and price movements. By monitoring the economic calendar, we can identify potential correlations between key economic releases and specific technical patterns on the chart, hereby giving us valuable information needed to help us position ourselves in such a way that we can capitalize on any potential opportunity prior, during, and even after the event. And of course, we know that the anticipation of this event as well has a tendency of influencing price action. Now, on the economic calendar, we usually focus on high impact events from the economies that affects the assets on our watch list. So, since this week, based on the asset we've been monitoring so far, we are going to be visiting the US and the United Kingdom economic dockets. Now, for today, Tuesday, October 10th, we do not have any high impact events, so I took it a step further by including the medium impact event. And when we included that, we have three major speeches that everyone in the market are likely going to be looking forward to. Now, the first speech here is coming in about 7 hours from now, and that is Fed Waller's speech. Christopher J. Waller is a member of the Board of Governors of the Federal Reserve System, so everyone will be looking forward to his speech. Then about 9 hours from now, we are looking at Neil Kashkari's speech. Neil Kashkari is the President and Chief Executive Officer of the 9th District Federal Reserve Bank at Minneapolis. Then we are also going to be looking forward to Mary Daly's speech much more later in the day. Mary Daly is the San Francisco Federal Reserve Bank head, and of course she's also a member of the voting she's also a voting member of the Federal Reserve Committee. So these are very impactful events, and one important thing about this kind of speeches from prominent figures from the Federal Reserve is that it holds considerable influence over financial markets, and the remarks here will provide an insight into the central bank's outlook on the economy, potential monetary policy shifts, and interest rate changes, hereby impacting our decisions and, of course, affect the market sentiment. Now, with the information we have gathered here from the economic calendar, we shall be diving right into the chart to look at things from a technical standpoint and see how we are going to be positioning ourselves ahead of today's event. Now, our first asset for today is going to be the US oil spot. Now, in the last 24 hours, it's very obvious that the market has been caught within a consolidation phase, as you will see right here. And the prevailing belief is that geopolitical tensions in the Middle East could exert upward pressure on global oil prices. However, the impact on the US oil chart has yet to fully materialize. Thus far, trading activities have been range-bound since the start of the week. As you will see, price has been confined within the $86 level and let's say around the $83.80 area to emphasize the level of uncertainty in this market. And of course, you know how we do it in this community. When price falls into this kind of range-bound trading activity, we have no other choice than to exercise patience, looking for either the breakout of the resistance line for an opportunity to buy or the breakdown of the support line for an opportunity to sell. Now, if you look at this structure here, remember our support line during our live session yesterday was between the zone here at the $84.35 level and the $83.80 area. And since yesterday's trading session, we have noticed that sellers have continued to struggle to break through that area. Now, the inability of sellers to break through the zone between the $84.35 and the $83.80 area is a sign that we might likely be seeing some buy momentum come in today. Now, if you look at the nature of price action within that support zone, you will see that the lowest point that price action has been for this week is around the $83.80 level. And the next attempt by the sellers to break through the previous low here was negated around the $84.180 level. Now, a couple of hours ago, we saw another attempt by the sellers. As you will see here, it was met with strong resistance from the buyers. And if we take all this observation together, we can see here that price action appeared to be transitioning and finding higher lows in this market, which is a sign that buyers are trying to gain momentum behind the scenes. Now, there is another thing I would like to share with you on the 4 hours time frame, which we deliberated on yesterday, and the understanding of this will make things a little bit much clearer for us today. Now, scaling up into the 4 hours time frame, remember that this is what we saw here at the beginning of the week after taking into consideration the nature of price action since the beginning of this week. And what we saw here was a lower high, series of lower highs, which we of course connected, giving us this beautiful descending trend line we have here. And of course, you know how we treat our descending trend lines in this community. As long as price remains below the trend line, we feel comfortable in a sell position. But as soon as the trend line is breached, that is, we see price break out of the trend line, we will get ready to look out for buying opportunity, as the breakout of the trend line is a sign that the trend line may no longer have the capacity to continue to negate the bullish attempt. Now, if we look at what has been going on here since the beginning of this week, you will see here that we had the breakout of that descending trend line happened. And since the breakout happened, price action had remained above that trend line caught within a consolidation phase there. Now, for the fact that price remains above that trend line, I'm of the opinion that buyers are likely going to be taking over the market very soon. Now, if price does not drop below the descending trend line, we will continue to hold on to a bullish bias. Now, you can see how important this structure is for our decision making for today. So now with this information we have here, let's scale back down into the 1 hour time frame to see how we do want to be capitalizing on this uptrend scenario. Now, within this old range here, that is this range we identified here yesterday, I was able to spot another key level within this flat channel that we are going to be using to guide our trading decisions for today, and that falls along the $85.15 level. Now you can see how this level had played a major role for sellers since the beginning of the week, as you will see here that buyers have been finding it difficult to break through the structure since the beginning of the week. Now we saw some sharp rejections around this area, giving us a beautiful shooting star candle. Then since then, price action we saw how buyers have been finding it difficult to break through this area. And in fact, in the last couple of hours, the same thing has happened here. Now, for me to consider buying the USOILSPOT today, I would want to see price take out all the sell positions around that $85.15 level, which will reflect on the chart as a breakout of that structure. Now, once the breakout happens, we scale down into a lower time frame to look out for signs that sellers this time around are going to be finding it difficult to stay below the structure. And if this happens, it's going to reflect on the chart as retest of structure, continued buy pressure, around or above the $85.50 level, after which we want to be part of the uptrend move. Now, if price action continues to climb and find higher highs, then another breakout of that resistant line of that range at the $86 level will be welcoming more buying opportunities here. So this is how we are going to be managing our positions as regards to buying the US oil spot for today's trading session. So you do want to be marking that $85.15 level as a breakout of that structure will be all we need to capitalize on an uptrend scenario here. Now, in as much as we're looking out for buying opportunities, you know how we do it in this community. We want to also take into consideration the potentials of sellers, and if sellers are really going to be coming in here, what is it that we want to see on this chart that will make us feel comfortable selling the US oil spot today? Now, if you look at the structure, the lowest point price action has been for this week is the $83.80 level. Then secondly, we have the descending trend line here, which we marked out on the higher time frame. I showed this to you earlier. Now, price still remains above that trend line. But one thing here is that this lowest point here at the $83.80 level is going to be an area I will be looking out for selling opportunities. So if price action can take out this lowest point at the $83.80 level, like a breakdown of structure where the appearance of a retest of this zone here or continued selling pressure around this area will be a good confirmation to join a downtrend move. Now, if it so happens that price breaks down the $83.80 zone, retest the structure to signal our sell position, and we ride the move all the way to the downside, please note that we still have this descending trend line here, which we spotted on the higher time frame. Now, if price drops and continues into the structure, as soon as price gets close to that trend line, kindly move all your stop losses and secure the current sell position. As depending on how price reacts to the trend line, will be determining if we are going to be adding more sell position to our existing sell position or get ready for another wave of bullish momentum. So if it so happens that price continues the momentum to the downside, breaking down that descending trend line, then price will be back into the seller's territory. Then we look out for more selling opportunities. However, if instead we see continued buy pressure above the structure, then at this point we want to be getting ready for an uptrend move. So if it so happens that we see buy pressure around that area, we shall be looking out for reversal patterns. It could be double bottom structures, head and shoulder, falling wedge, whichever case it may be. Identify the neckline of the reversal pattern, and the breakout of the reversal of the neckline will be validating the bullish move. So this is how we are going to be managing our US oil spot for today. And there is this level here at the $82.25 level, which interestingly lines up with that descending trend line. So we shall be looking forward to see how the market will react to that structure if it continues to the downside. So these are my views here on the US oil spot for today. So it's a simple setup we have here. So right now our center of focus is basically going to be between the $85.15 level and the $83.80 level, where depending on where the breakout happens will determine the direction of where price will be going today. So you do want to be marking out these levels on your chart, as you will be needing them as a reference point to guide your independent trading decisions for today. So if you have any questions whatsoever, or you need me to do clarifications on any aspect of my explanations, feel free to let me know right in the comment section. So I will be taking the next 10 to 15 seconds as usual to see if there are any questions before we move into the next financial asset on our watch list. And you can as well use that time to mark out these levels on your chart, as you will be needing them as a reference point to guide your trading decisions for today's trading session. All right, so in the absence of no questions, I want to assume that we are all on the same page here. So I will be moving into the next financial asset on our watch list. So the next asset on our watch list here is the USTech100, which is popularly known as the Nasdaq. And in fact, in the last 24 hours, we've done pretty well on the USTech100 as we had our first, second, and we're about to have our third buy position on the USTech100. Now let's run through how the week started for us on the 1 hour time frame and what led to the decision that we had to buy the USTech100. Now at the beginning of the week right here on the 4 hours time frame, this is what we saw on this chart. We saw our price was initially confined within this range around the 14,900 and the 14,840 to emphasize the level of indecision in this market. And of course, there's a very simple setup for us as we know how we do it whenever we have this kind of phase where price is caught within a range. We do want to be exercising patience, waiting for either the breakout of the resistance line for buying opportunities or the breakdown of the support line for selling opportunities. Now, one of the things we mentioned here yesterday is that if we are going to be selling, that things were looking very bullish. We are going to be looking at that in a moment on the higher time frame. But we said here that if we are going to be selling, considering the strong impulsive move that brought us to this point, that the only condition that will make us sell is for price to break down the support line of that range, wait for confirmation like a retest of structure before we can join the downtrend move. And of course, this never happened. And instead, we saw price break out of the resistance line at the 14,900 area, as you saw here. In fact, it came back to retest the structure. And since that moment, we have been buying this asset. And I can remember vividly, I made mention that we also have another level at the $15,000 area, a strong psychological level, considering the round figure of that price, that we are going to be looking out for more opportunities to maximize the potential of this bullish move if price action does break out that structure. And as you will see, we had an engulfing candle slice through that area, and price action, we triggered our second buy position for the week. And if you still have your buy position running right now, well done to you. Kudos to you for being on standby to capitalize on this move. And you will currently be running with about, the first position is currently running with exactly 200 pips in profit right now, while the second buy position is currently running with about 100 pips. So we have approximately 300 pips in profit, which is not bad for the second day of the week. Now, with this position running in our favor, the next thing we want to be doing right now is to ensure that we secure this current buy positions by moving all our stop losses. Now, at this point in time, based on this current structure, I'm of the opinion that anywhere below the 15,050 and that second entry seems most appropriate to move all stop losses to. Now, remember, while we are trying to move our stop losses, that we do want to be given enough room for price action to breach, so that in case price does some retracement before the uptrend move happens, we are still going to be part of that position. So with a well secured position at this juncture, what is going to be our next line of action for today? Are we going to continue buying the US Tech 100, or are there chances that sellers could come in at any point in time today to take price to the downside? And remember that we are looking forward to three speeches coming in from officials of the Federal Reserve, which has a tendency of also influencing price movement today. Now, before we go into the details here, let's run through the higher time frame so we can have an holistic perspective into what has been going on in this market. Now, let's scale up into the 4 hours time frame so we can refresh our memories as regards to what we saw on this chart. Now, at the beginning of this week, this is what we saw here. We saw this beautiful setup. We had this reversal pattern sort of a structure here, as we saw price testing the 14,500. Price came back into the 14,850, which happens to be our neckline for that reversal pattern. We saw price come back, and then we saw the scenario happen last week where price did break out of the neckline at the 14,850 level. And one of the things we mentioned here yesterday is that when price breaks out of the neckline of a reversal pattern like this, we expect some retest of structure to happen at some point. And if the appearance of buy pressure resumes around that neckline, we want to be part of that uptrend move, which is exactly what happened here yesterday to incite that bullish momentum we are currently in. Now, let's take it a step further to look at where price action is right now. Now, if we zoom into the current structure, you will see that price is currently along trading just right around that 15,100. In fact, in the last 12 hours, buyers have been finding it difficult to break through that level. So what this simply tells us is that sellers are trying to build up some momentum around that area, and if buyers find it difficult to break out of this level, there are chances that we could be witnessing some bearish momentum. Now, one interesting thing about this 15,100 level where price has been trading in the last 12 hours here is the fact that it also shares a beautiful confluence with this descending trend line we spotted here during last week's trading session. Remember that we had this descending channel where that trend line here is serving as the resistant line of that descending channel. Now look at the structure closely. Price is right along that resistant line here. Now the question going into today's trading session is this: will price respect that descending trend line one more time, that is the resistant line of that descending channel, to incite a downtrend continuation? That is one possibility we are going to be looking at. Or are we going to be seeing a breakout, retest of the trend line and the 15,100 to incite an uptrend continuation? Now, to have a better perspective into what is going on here, we will scale down into the lower time frame to identify potential structures or patterns we can use to position ourselves for the next move. So I needed us to see what things are looking like on the 4 hours time frame so that we can be on the same page when we deliberate on the 1 hour time frame. Now, scaling down into the 1 hour time frame, this is what we will be looking at for today. Now let's zoom right into the current structure, and as you will see, since the early hours of today, we've continued to notice some selling pressure around the 15,100. Now, based on the strong bullish momentum we've been witnessing prior to this week, I'm of the opinion that price is likely going to be breaking out of that level. Now, for us to capitalize on this uptrend scenario, there are two ways to which we can capitalize on this move. Now, for those who have been profitable so far this week, that is, if you had joined this bullish momentum earlier and you're currently running in profits, then you can afford to leverage on the profit we have made so far this week to test waters above the 15,100 to see if this breakout is going to work. And if it doesn't work, then we know that we are only risking some of the profit we've made so far this week and not touching our portfolio at all. So placing a buy stop order above the 15,100 makes a lot of sense for everyone who has been profitable so far on this asset. However, if you are joining us for the first time and this is your first position with us today, I will be encouraging you to exercise patience and wait for confirmation before jumping into that position. Now, what is it you're going to be looking out for? Well, the first thing we want to see here for new traders, for newcomers here, is price breaking out of the 15,100 first of all, then wait for price to come back, retest the structure on our lower time frame, where the appearance of buy pressure here could give us signs that sellers are finding it difficult to stay below the 15,100, after which we want to be part of the uptrend move. So this is how we are going to be managing our trade on the USTech100 today. However, there is one thing I would like to call our attention to here, which is a possibility that will happen today, and we also want to take note of that one too. Now, we just saw the price break out of the 15,100 during the New York session yesterday, a very strong psychological level. Remember, this level had been a selling niche at some point before it was broken yesterday. And from a technical standpoint, when price breaks out of a very significant structure like this, we expect that at some point in time there could be some profit-taking activities which could bring price back to retest the structure in anticipation of the uptrend continuation. So if this selling pressure persists here, there are chances that price could still retrace back into the 15,100 or even break down that structure a little bit. But if this happens, we do want to see how the market will be reacting around that 15,000 area or around that structure, where the appearance of buy pressure may be in the form of a reversal pattern will incite that uptrend continuation. So these are scenarios we are going to be taking into consideration if sellers at any point in time takes over this market. So on the US Tech 100, I still hold a very strong bullish bias here, but if sellers come in, I'm still of the opinion that it's going to be serving as a retracement of the impulsive move with the anticipation of an uptrend scenario. So let's see how the market will play out. Mark out these levels on your chart and let's see what will happen in the next 24 hours. If you have any questions or you need me to do further clarification in any aspect that you do not understand, feel free to let me know in the comment section. So I will be taking the next 10 to 15 seconds to see if there are any questions whatsoever before we move in to the next financial asset on our watch list. All right. I see your comment top here. I see your comment 683986112. Good morning to you guys and glad to have you around with us this morning. So in the absence of no questions, I want to assume that we are all on the same page. So permit me to move into the next asset on our watch list. So the next asset on our watch list for this morning is going to be the GBPUSD, that is the cable market. Now, what is really going on in this market? In fact, we have a very interesting setup going on right now. And I will still say that the pound sterling is still under selling pressure, which has lasted over a couple of months now. The within the 1.22600 zone, we've been experiencing some strong selling activities since last week Friday, and given the current market structure, it may be prudent to consider buying opportunities only at the breakout retest of the 1.22650 level, which was identified on the 4 hours time frame yesterday. However, let's take a quick look at what has really been going on since the beginning of the week and what led to the decisions we made. Now, remember, at the beginning of the week, we were more of selling the GBPUSD. I told you I had a sell position triggered as soon as price broke down and retested the 1.220 area. And one of the reasons that made me sell, okay, let's run through this quickly. We saw this range here where price was confined within the 1.22360 and the 1.2200 area, giving us some level of indecision. But within that range, price was finding lower highs, which resulted in that descending trend line we spotted after connecting the series of lower highs here. And we agreed here yesterday that as long as price remains below that descending trend line, we shall feel comfortable in our sell position while we also look out for more selling opportunities. But one of the things we also mentioned is that if at any point in time price breaks out of that descending trend line, then this will be a sign that the trend line may no longer have the capacity to continue to negate the bullish attempt, hereby giving us an opportunity to buy the pound sterling. Now, we saw what happened a couple of hours into the New York session. We saw how price action took out the sell position, leading to the breakout of that trend line. So we saw price break out of the trend line, climb above the support line, find buy pressure to trigger a buy position here. And if you are taking advantage of this position, some of us will have taken it right away, had the breakout of the trend line. If you had done that, you will currently be running with about 80 pips in profit. And remember, I also mentioned that a breakout retest of the 1.22360, which happens to be the highest point and the resistance line as at the time we analyzed this yesterday, will welcome more buying opportunities. And if you are taking advantage of that one too, well done to you, as you will have about 30 pips running on this one. So based on the current structure we have right now, we have roughly about 100 pips in profit right now. And for those who took advantage of this opportunity, well done to you for being on standby to capitalize on this move. Now, the next thing we are going to be doing right now is to secure these current positions by moving all our stop losses accordingly. And from the look of things right here, I will be suggesting that that area around that second entry, that is around the 1.22360 level, seems most appropriate to place our stop loss here. And while we are trying to fix our stop loss, please note that we want to also give enough room for price action to breathe. Now, with a well secured position at this juncture, what is going to be our next plan for the New York session today? How are we going to continue buying the GBPUSD, or are there chances that sellers goes to come in to take over this market? Now, before we scale into the details here, let's run through the higher time frame so we can have an holistic view of what is going on in this market. And even for those who are joining us for the first time, will also be able to be on the same page with us. Now, scaling up, I think we started our analysis on the daily time frame, I guess. Let me look at this. Okay, I think we started on the 4 hours time frame. So our analysis started on the 4 hours time frame, and this is what we saw at the beginning of the week. So here I was able to take into consideration the nature of price action since the beginning of the month of September. And interesting enough, it is quite clear that price has been on a bearish momentum. And after connecting the series of lower highs and the series of lower lows, we have a descending channel. So this is the resistance line of the descending channel, and this is the support line of the descending channel. Now, At this point, the resistant line is where our center of focus will be. And while price was finding lower highs and lower lows, we noticed that I think 3 weeks ago we acknowledged that price was caught within this range. That is between the 1.22650 and the 1.2040 area. And within this range, we begin to notice the emergence of buy pressure, which finally led to the breakout and retest of the resistant line of that descending channel. So we saw the breakout of the resistant line happen. Price came back to retest the structure with an engulfing bullish candle right here on Friday. And one of the things we agreed here yesterday is that as long as price remains above the resistant line of this descending channel, we will continue to look out for buying opportunities. Now we are in a buy position right now. Price is trading now along that 1.22650 area, which is going to be a pivotal juncture in this market to decide if buyers will be dictating the pace for this week. Now, if you look at how the 1.22650 level had played a major role in the last 3 weeks in this market, you will see that this is more of a seller's territory. Since price broke down the structure 3 weeks ago, we can see here that buyers have been finding it difficult to break out of this level. We saw what happened here on the last trading day of last month. We saw selling pressure resume here, and on Friday of last week trading session, we saw another sell pressure resume around that area. Now, the way things are going right now, you will see price is back into that territory, seller's territory, of course, and we are at a crucial moment where we need to exercise a lot of patience. So we want to see how market participant will be reacting to this price level at the 1.22650 level to determine what our next line of action will be. Like I said earlier, this is a seller's territory. If continued selling pressure persists, there are chances that sellers could still come in. But if price will break out of the structure, which I'm of the opinion is likely going to happen today, then we want to be looking out for more buying opportunities to maximize this uptrend situation. Now, with the information we have gathered here on the 4 hours time frame, I would like us to scale back down into the 1 hour time frame so we can look out for patterns and structures around this 1.22650 level to position ourselves for the next move. Now, scaling down into the 1 hour time frame, this is what we have here. So I will just zoom it in so we can have a clearer picture of what is going on in the last 24 hours. Now, in the last 24 hours, it's quite clear that price has been finding higher lows. Look at the lowest point for this week around the 1.2170. Then the next higher low here is around the 1.22200 level. Now we have an ascending trend line to work with after connecting this series of higher lows here. Now, what this simply means is that as long as price remains above this ascending trend line, we shall feel comfortable in this buy position and of course look out for more buying opportunities. So with the way things are going right now, you will see that in the last 3 hours, price has been finding selling pressure around this area. There are still a possibility that price could retrace back into the trend line where the appearance of buy pressure will be good enough for us to add more buy position to our existing trade. So at this point in time, anything above the 1.2265 seems most appropriate for buying opportunities in this market. So let's continue to hope that buyers will maintain their momentum and push price to find new highs. However, in as much as we're looking out for buying opportunities here, you know how we do it in this community. We also want to keep tabs with the opposite direction too and consider the potentials of sellers just in case if they come in, we want to be part of that move. Now, if you look at what has been going on here, I showed you on the 4 hours time frame in the last 3 weeks, this area here has been a strong selling niche. Now, if sellers persist within this zone and it leads into a situation where price will break down the 1.2322360 and the ascending trend line we spotted here, then the likelihood of a momentum shift is very possible. Now, we are not getting too excited at the breakdown of structure, as we will need some confirmations to happen. So we want to see a retest of structure on our lower time frame. It could be the retest of the ascending trend line or the retest of the 1.22360 area. But most importantly, what we are looking out for is signs that buyers are finding it difficult to climb back above that ascending trend line, and at that point we will get ready to sell. Now, if price action continues to drop, remember we have an ascending trend line right here around this area. So if price breaks down that ascending trend line, then we will be looking out for more selling opportunities here. But if buy pressure resume above the ascending trend line, then we will get ready for an uptrend move. So it's okay. It might look a little bit complicated, but it's not. All we just need to do is mark out these levels on our chart. That is the 1.22650, the 1.22360 level, and of course this ascending trend line we spotted here this morning. Now, depending on how price reacts to the structures will determine what our next line of action will be. A breakdown of the 1.22360 and the ascending trend line will welcome selling opportunities, while the breakout, and if price remains above the 1.22650 level, we hold on to a bullish bias. So this is my view here on the GBPUSD for today. So you do want to be marking out these levels, as you will be needing them as a reference point to guide your independent trading decisions for today's trading session. If you have any questions whatsoever, feel free to let me know in the comment section. So as usual, I'm going to be taking the next 10 to 15 seconds to see if there are any questions before we delve into the last financial asset on our watch list for today's trading session. All right. So in the absence of no questions, I will just take this as a feedback that we are good to go and that we are all on the same page here. I see your comment, 87709840. Thank you for checking in on us here. All right, so moving on to the next asset on our watch list. So the next asset on our watch list is my favorite, and that is the XAUUSD, popularly known as the gold spot. And on the gold spot, we currently have a buy positions running at this point in time. And for those who are taking advantage of this opportunity, well done to you. Now let's run through how the week started and what led to the idea of buying this asset. Now, if you recall that from a technical standpoint, well, before we talk about the technical aspect, it is important I state here that it is widely acknowledged that the gold, being a safe haven asset, tends to benefit during times of political and economic turmoil, such as the case scenario we are witnessing, the Hamas-Israel situation going on right now, as because of this imbalance in the financial landscape, there are tendency for majority in the market to move their funds into safe havens such as the gold. And because of these general expectations in the market right now, I'm of the opinion that the gold may likely gain some positive traction this week. Now, the question is, when will that momentum begin? We really do not know at this point. But from a technical standpoint, we can position ourselves in such a way that we can capitalize that move. Now, let's look at what is going on here from a technical standpoint. Now, at the beginning of the week, that is during our live session yesterday, we acknowledged a potential reversal pattern after this strong bearish momentum we've been witnessing in the last 3 to 4 weeks in this market. We saw how it became difficult for sellers to break through the 1815 and the 1810 zone, as you will see right here, and this lasted throughout of last week's trading session, giving us a structure that looks more like a reversal pattern. And of course, you know that whenever we identify a reversal pattern like this in this community, the next thing we want to be doing is to mark out our neckline, which a breakout of the neckline will be validating that reversal pattern. So prior to the beginning of this week, we were looking forward to a breakout of that structure. And interestingly, we saw what happened here. We saw a huge bullish gap, which gave us about 16 pips, $16 gap here, revealing the nature or the sentiment of trading activities during the course of the weekend. And this further reveals that majority are looking forward to an upsurge in price of the gold. Now, at the beginning of this week, following that bullish gap, we saw our price was initially confined within this range between the 1855 level and the 1846 area to emphasize the level of indecision at that point in time. And when we saw this yesterday, we kept our options open for both buying and selling opportunities, as the breakout of the resistant line of this range will welcome buying opportunities, while the breakdown of the range will welcome selling opportunities. Now, let's talk about what we were looking out for to sell the XAUUSD yesterday. Now, when we saw the breakout of this neckline, there are times we look out for a retest of the neckline after the breakout to incite an uptrend scenario. And we said to anticipate this, we want to see a breakdown of the 1846, the support line of that range, then a retest of structure to confirm that we are good to sell, which of course never happened. And instead, price did break out of the resistant line of that range at the 1855, and in fact it moved about 100 pips, as you will see here, testing the 865 zone. If you are taking advantage of that move and take your profit there, well done to you. But if you're still holding on to this buy position as well, well done to you too. We're still running with about how many pips right now? About 22 pips in profit at this point. So I wouldn't be advising us to move our stop loss right now. Let's allow this trade to run. If it hits our stop loss, it's okay. The week is still very early and we still have enough time to recoup whatever loss we incur here. Now, with the situation going on right now, what is going to be our plans for today's trading session? Well, while trying to dissect this current market structure this morning, I spotted these higher lows here, and in fact since last week Friday, price had continued to find higher lows here. And when I connected the series of higher lows, I was able to identify this couple of trend lines here. So we have the temporary bullish trend line here, which is the light dotted line on your screen, and we have the major one, which is the thick dotted line on your screen. And of course, you know how we use our ascending trend line in this community. As long as price remains above the ascending trend line, we shall feel comfortable in our buy position, while we also look out for more opportunities to maximize the uptrend scenario. Now, if we zoom into the current structure here, you will see that price still remains above the ascending trend line. So we shall continue to hold on to this bullish bias. Now, how do we maximize this move if price continues to remain above this ascending trend line? Well, we have another level at the 1865 area. This is the highest point price action has been for this week, and in fact we saw our buyers found barrier around this area as sellers negated all attempt by the buyers to break out of that structure. Now, for me to add more buy position to my existing trade, I want to see price take out all the sell positions along the 1865 zone to give me an opportunity to join the uptrend move. And as usual, we have two ways to which we can capitalize on this move. If you have been part of this buy position right now, as soon as price breaks out of that resistant line at the 1865, you should be having over 100 pips running in profit at that point. So you can afford to leverage on the profit we had made so far this week by placing a buy stop order above the 1865 to capitalize on the uptrend scenario, while you move the stop losses on that first position to a considerable amount, so that when price does not work out, we know that we are only risking some of the profit we had made so far this week. However, if you are joining us for the first time, that is, if you'll be joining for the first time at the breakout of the 1865, then I will be suggesting that you wait for confirmations, that is a breakout, retest of the 1865 before joining that uptrend continuation. In fact, price will still retest the ascending trend line, respecting it one more time to push price to the upside. So on the XAUUSD today, I'm looking forward to bullish momentum. As long as price remains above that ascending trend line, we feel comfortable in the buy position, and we also look out for more buying opportunities if price action goes on to break out of the 1865 level. However, if the contrary happens here, and the sell pressure we've been observing around the 1865 level persists, then we might likely be seeing a build-up of a crash. And if that happens, we want to be part of the move. But what is it that we are going to see on this chart that will make us feel comfortable shifting our bias from bullish to bearish? Now, this ascending trend line we have here is going to be playing a major role in helping us guide our trading decisions for today. And for us to sell the XAUUSD, I would rather want to see price slice through the 1855 and of course the ascending trend line to give me a signal that we are likely going bearish. Now, if price breaks down the structure, I would like to see some retests for confirmation on my lower time frame. I just want to see signs that buyers are finding it difficult to climb back above the ascending trend line, which definitely would reflect on the chart as continued selling pressure below the structure to incite a downtrend move. So this is the only condition here that will make me consider selling the XAUUSD today. So you can see how important and crucial that ascending trend line is based on this current market structure. So you do want to be marking that level out on your chart and the trend line, as we will be needing it as a reference point to guide our independent trading decisions for today. So this is my view here on the XAUUSD for today's New York session, and I do hope I made myself very clear. But if you still find some clog in the wheel somewhere, let me know in the comment section, and trust me, I'm here and willing to be of help in that regard. So if you have any questions, I will be taking the next 10-15 minutes to pause and see if there are any questions before we draw the curtain for today's trading session. All right. So, in the absence of no questions, I take this as a confirmation that we are all on the same page here. And in fact, it has been a wonderful moment with you guys today. I really appreciate every single moment I've shared with you this morning. And we were able to attend to four major financial assets today, which includes the US All Spot, the US Tech 100, which is popularly known as the NASDAQ. We also attended to the GBPUSD and, of course, the XAUUSD, popularly known as the gold spot, and all of which we were able to identify simple setups that we can use to position ourselves ahead of the New York session today. So I do hope you were able to mark out those levels on your chart, and please don't allow impulsive decisions. Allow our setups to mature before we jump into any positions today. For those who joined us for the first time, I do hope you were able to gain one or two things from what we discussed here today. And I encourage you to be part of our subsequent editions, as the more time you spend with us, the better you get to understand how the strategy works and eventually be able to use the information you gather here to make your own independent trading decisions. So I look forward to seeing you all same time again tomorrow, 10 a.m. UTC, 11 a.m. West African time, as we come here again to review how well these assets have been doing in the last 24 hours, while we also get ready for tomorrow's trading session. It's on this note I wish us all the best of luck and do have a wonderful and beautiful evening. Bye bye.